about was last week. This was a popcorn moment for me. This was a popcorn moment for some people. Sabs is in the chat. Hey, Sabs. But Dr. Cornel West decided to throw his hat in the ring for running for president in a third party. I just wanted to get your reaction and thoughts about that. I know you guys are going to be talking about it a little bit more at length tomorrow, but I just wanted to get your thoughts about his running as well as some newer developments of him possibly talking to the Green Party as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, you know, in general, I'll start off this way. I like Cornel West. I like him better, particularly after he came out against Obama and started challenging the policies and ideas of Obama. But, you know, I am not necessarily overjoyed that the idea of running for president is the action that he wants to take. And I'm sure I'll express that to him. I think there's things that you do, obviously, because they're performative or because they give you an opportunity to get people to gravitate towards you, to hear you speak and talk about ideas. I understand that. I'm with that. But unless he is leading folks to say, these are either A, I'm creating an organization or institution that's going to be long lasting past this fight, because obviously this is not a real win or run for presidency. I don't have a chance in hell of winning. Unless I can see what that structure looks like and what that will do and what's the purposes of it, and it's outside the Democratic Party, which it is, then I'm far more lenient about, okay, I can see where this is going and how this can be of some value. But, you know, I think we've had this, you know, we've had sort of left figures or progressive figures who run for, the office of the presidency. And, you know, whether or not it builds the infrastructure that people wanted to build is always a question. So, you know, again, there's things about the Green Party I like, but until they dig deep in terms of local elections and presenting a left force, you know, I don't know how much resources I want to pour into it, right? I'm much more comfortable, and this is my own, you know, viewpoint about these things. I want a base bill before I jump into anything that has a sniff of too much electoral work, right? I want a base bill with people. I want to do the stuff that we talked about earlier, the mutual aid, building cooperatives, fighting against power and for power from the outside. And then maybe there's a level or of which you engage in some form of electoral politics. Once those folks are politicized, they're a part of your organizational apparatus, they can be held accountable to the work. They fit within a larger structure of work. But I'm not always comfortable when individuals, particularly well-known individuals, kind of step out on their own and say they're going to do ABC. It's obvious that this organization seems to be more of a vehicle that he is using to do that. I'm not surely I'm committed to the vehicle itself, or I know enough about the vehicle to suggest that somehow this is the vehicle that needs to be lifted up in terms of finding some alternatives to the two prominent parties in terms of offering a different politic. And so I'm just a little wary of it. And again, I'm sure I'll express that when we get to talk to Cornel tomorrow.
Sure. And just to follow up, what do you think this could be as far as the impact on the Black community, even in just an idea perspective? What type of impact do you think it could be a positive impact as far as conversationally with the Black community?
And I don't think so, because I think Cornel West has all the access he needs to the Black community. He doesn't have to run for president for that. Cornel West is a famous public intellectual. If Cornel West wants to set up a speaking engagement and go to churches and fill the pews with Black folks to talk about radical organizing or what this country needs to do, he could do that outside of the platform of saying he's doing it to run for president, which is not to say that, you know, again, that, you know, this may get him more of a spotlight to do that work and so forth. But I don't know if the run in and of itself is as important as what is the vehicle that's being built by doing this run, right? What is the vehicle that is being built by suggesting that you're going to run on this alternative platform? Who's in the vehicle? Who's running it? Who's a part of it? What are the progressive ideas or radical ideas that it has? What is it going to be doing after this run that makes me believe that it's important for me to support this new vehicle, or even the Green Party, to support these vehicles post this run for president. So I'm far more interested in those things that would come after, or those things that are attached to the run, than I am in the run itself. I think Cornel has plenty of space, again, for conversation and dialogue within the Black community. He can get on almost any show he wants to at any time prior to even saying he was running for president. So that stuff for me is of little importance as much as it is what are the infrastructure and structure of what you're being built, why are you building it, who's building it with you, and what's the work that's going to come after this run.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the work after, I think, is really the most important focus, because the presidential election season as is what it is. It's a season. And the thing is that the work must continue, because I'm of the same opinion, is that I don't think he'll win. But what I did say,
you don't think he'll win? He's not going to win.
Well,
you're being nice. You're being nice.
I'm being nice. But the thing is that I think, you know, it brings forth a more bigger national conversation. One of the things I'm hoping for part of the national conversation is things like reparations as well. But at the same time, I think that conversation doesn't really mean anything unless you're building something in the background outside of electoral politics in order to do it. It's like just talking about getting married. Oh, we're just talking about getting married. Oh, we're just talking about it, you know. But you're not shopping for rings. You know what I'm saying? You're not cake testing. You're not getting the flowers. You're not asking the probing questions about it. You're just talking about it. So my thing is, like, I don't just want to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is that we can talk about getting married day in, day out, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But once you start shopping for rings, that's when you know that things are starting to happen. And so I think that's one of the things that I would say to Dr. West, if I could, is that, yes, you're running and you're on these platforms and you're bringing this into the national conversation. That's good. What about afterwards? What are we going to do? And what are you going to, because you're building a movement, but what are you going to direct that movement towards? Because people need a direction to go. Some of us need to be told what to do. Some of us, we can figure it out on our own, but some of us need a little bit more direction. And so if you're going to do this, that means you're a kind of de facto putting yourself as a leader of a movement. And so what are you leading people towards? Because the thing is that you and I both, as if I'm talking to him, you and I both know that the private organizations of the RNC and the DNC are not going to allow you one step near Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things, you know, and some of this could be my very own ignorance around Cornel's organization / base building efforts in the past. But one of my critiques of the public intellectual sphere, like the academic sphere, is even amongst those who I agree with, unless you're out there building within an organizational apparatus, you know, again, it's not so much I don't think that talking heads are not important, but unless you're leading folks, like you said, to some structure, some infrastructure, something that they can join, something that they can organize through, basically, you know, you're selling soap, right? You're pushing a book, you're pushing a seminar, you are making yourself so that you can speak on college campuses or whatever it is. But unless you're pushing them towards an organizational apparatus that they can join, that they can be a part of, that they can vote in, that they can get some work in, those are the things that we would need from a figure, let's say, of the quote unquote stature of a Cornel, who again can get on national TV by snapping his fingers, right? So for me, it's always that these folks who have access to public airways, unfortunately, in our recent history, do far more of the push themselves and their sensibilities, even if they're doing it through a language of a radical or progressive lens, than they are actually building power for people who need to build power. Like you said, like people who are looking to be asked, like, where do I go? What can I put my trust in? Cornel West can do a lot to try to make sure that kind of work was being done.
Mm-hmm. This is a super chat from Savvy. Thank you so much for the $10. Dr. West worked with the Black Panthers. He's done a lot in the community.
Did he? Savvy, you're going to have me on your show so that we can debate how much work Cornel West did with the Black Panther Party members. Of the Black Panther Party members that I've either worked with or talked to, never have they ever mentioned Cornel West as an ally of their struggle and or movement, which is not to say that he did not do something with them, but it has never been lifted up of like, this is what Cornel did with us, for us at the time. So let's have that conversation. I like that.
You guys can DM each other. I'm not getting in between.
I haven't been on. This is my way of trying to get on Sabby's show. I haven't been on the show before, so
Well, Sabs, you. But in the same vein, and I want to get into this because we only have a few minutes left. But one of the questions I have is, if you were somehow to ascend to the White House, which I know that wouldn't happen, but if you in another universe, what would be the first 3 things that you would enact as, commander-in-chief within your first 100 days, if just hypothetically speaking?
Well, with hypothetically speaking, I would dismantle the military-industrial complex and use those resources towards making sure that everybody had housing, making sure that people had health care, like there was a healthcare system that was a public healthcare system. I would also begin to play with the idea of changing how the means of production are orientated in this country. I would also, lastly, and this would be my reformist avenue, raise the taxes on the rich to pay for other things that I think we need. But I would have to play around with those ideas if I was to ascend. I think might be a pretty quickly to an assassination attempt, but those would be the things that I would do. I think you'd have to dismantle the empire, right? Because you have to give other countries also space to do things that they need to do and they want to do, which could get covered to somebody who could fill that position. So those are, in general, off the top of my head, those are some of the things I think I would work on.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for that. That was a very nuanced answer, and I appreciate that.